Welcome to the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, a fabulous, non-binary, neurospicy ordained queerdo with assassination for all things cycles, symbolism, and patterns.
And I'm Moonkittee, your queer femme, poly kitchen witch, and proud geek. Today's topic is queer basics, cutting and clearing magic, also known as ending magic.
Ooh, a very powerful and very important
And very
piece of
weighty
magic.
topic.
Necessary, let's say.
Extremely necessary. Yes,
Espe-
absolutely.
Especially in the year that we find ourselves in.
Absolutely. Because we are in a 9-year cycle.
Yep.
And with that 9 being endings and transformation and getting ready and prepared for new cycles, that means we're going to have a lot of things where we are things that are ending and things that are beginning. So we thought cutting and clearing or ending magic was a really good topic. To start out, get ourselves started here. What do we mean by cutting and clearing?
Out with the old, in with the new. First, you have to be done with something and decide that you're actually done. Because
Right.
Lord knows we've held on sometimes one too many times. So that's the cut. And it can be harsh. And there are ways it can be done energetically, magically to kind of back up maybe what you're doing in real life to get away from a person or a situation. But so you have to make the cut. You have to decide that you're actually done and that this is the point of no return and we're not looking back.
Right.
And then you have to
Let it go. Song
space.
notes here. Exactly.
Ta-da! Songs that we will
Yes.
not pay for.
Right.
We cannot
Making
sing it.
making space, letting things go, make the decision that you're ending. Now do the work to get past the ending and into what comes next.
Correct. Yes, because when you do the clearing, you make space for, again, in with the new. Something, there is always a new beginning coming after some other beginning's end.
Right. To quote another song lyric that we throw out there,
I
every
can't
new
help
beginning is some
myself.
other beginning's end. Exactly. No, I get it. And that kind of leads to a thing because there's that idea. We do this on a daily basis in a soft sense. I mean, your end of your work day and the beginning of your evening or something like that could theoretically in some way be cutting and clearing. But there's a difference when we're talking about cutting and clearing versus endings and new beginnings. So, what makes cutting and clearing important and different than just starting something new?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a transition from day to night or fall to winter to spring.
Right.
We're not talking about transitions. We're talking about death and grief, like the death card in tarot, allowing for there to be feelings of grief, of things actually like truly walking away from something and detachment. There are things that we engage in that aren't healthy for ourselves, and one days we'll wake up and say and realize that this isn't for my best, for my betterment, for my best self. And we need to be able to conjure the power and sometimes follow through with some intentional magic to really shore and strengthen and protect ourselves into learning a lesson that we don't necessarily want to keep repeating.
For me, it's also about creating a sense of freedom from what was.
Yeah.
So, when something that's taken so much emotional energy, emotional time, caused so much turmoil internally, it's by cutting it out and having that hard line in the sand kind of expression thing, like I said, you've made the decision, I'm done. And that's the difference between, okay, is now slowly moving wiggly from day to night. I am done. That is where cutting and clearing comes up. Is that really you just know I am done with this. Now it's time to move on, to free myself of what held me back before and go on to what the future will bring. So it's that threshold step. It's a sense of freedom. All of that goes into, to me, why cutting and clearing is important.
I really love the phrase sense of freedom. It gives you a sense of freedom. That's very good. I also feel like when you are working cutting and clearing magic, is signaling to your mind, body, and spirit that this is a rite of passage, that I am no longer the person who fell victim to and or into a pattern of whatever this is that I'm trying to get away from, right? And I am now starting over or starting life in the sense of being the person that knows better. So
And
it's like a rite of giving yourself a rite of passage. Like,
mhm.
I don't know, it just helps things feel more finalized.
Right. And there's a lot of reclaiming your own energy aspect to it as well. When you are talking about doing a cutting and clearing, it's because someone or something is taking up too much space in your head, your heart, your emotions. It's not always related to someone, but it's almost always related primarily to emotions, though it can be to other things too. But again, there's just some sort of energetic connection that's just taking up too much space, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a bad breakup, whether it's family that's been toxic and that's holding you back. A
A
lot of
bad
those kinds of
job.
things. Yeah, it can be a bad job. Again, something or someone, usually someone, but again, a job is a really good example of it too, where it's taking up so much space and it's got you feeling
Like
tied
that
up.
they don't pay me enough to be thinking about this off hours.
Exactly.
That sort
Kind
of
of
situation.
kind of thing. And being able
And
to do that that's what you're looking at when you're talking about wanting to do cutting and clearing magic. It's those
and
kinds of situations.
here's the thing. You only have so much energy and you have to survive. You have to figure out what your body's going to eat for fuel
Mm-hmm.
and how much sleep it needs to rest and repair and how many hours you can dedicate to this project or that project. And you can't be losing energy to these things that are not good for you that you're
Mm-hmm.
done with that you so my thought is for your own personal energy, cutting and clearing is a way of to reduce, reuse, and recycle your own energy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of somebody else siphoning, your mental energy, your emotional energy is all being dedicated to maintaining this unhealthy relationship or this toxic work situation. Sometimes you have to decide that you're done so that you can move on to something better or a freedom that's not going to be harmful, so that you can regain your energy and not
Mm-hmm.
have it be completely drained by the situation. So it's like reduce, reuse your cycle of your own energy, you cut and clear.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes the process leading up to cut and clearing, especially if you're talking about something like a toxic job, sometimes you can just do it straight, drop dead cold, make that decision. I'm doing it now. Boom. Other times there may be lead up. So you may, well, if you know you're in a toxic job, you might be looking for another job. You might be putting out applications. You could be doing all those things. At that point, you haven't done the cutting and clearing yet, but you're working towards it and you acknowledge that you're working towards it. So I guess there is a step between deciding it and then doing it. Prep to do the thing is also
Mm-hmm.
part of
Mm-hmm.
the steps before you do a cutting and clearing.
Well, and also when we're talking about breakups or divorces,
Mm-hmm.
especially leaving abusive relationships or abusive situations, you may have already physically left, but you still get energetically or emotionally pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're done and you want, but they haven't given up or they keep finding an excuse to reincorporate themselves into your life, or they're doing horrible things just to upset you, just to
Mm-hmm.
get some kind of emotional reaction from you. And there comes a point where, you've done everything you can do to separate yourself, but they still somehow suck you back in energetically, or you're consumed with anxiety about running into them or whatever it is. Cutting and clearing can become a reclamation,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
something that you can do for yourself that from this point on, when they pull that BS, that's just them doing their own thing and it no longer affects you. And you can just be like, you know what? Not my problem. I don't care anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
have cut and cleared. I'm not
Right.
giving that energy. My
Mm-hmm.
my energy is my own. That's their energy for them. And, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. And we keep saying cutting and clearing. They are two separate things. They go together, but they are two actual different acts and they kind of work together. So, what is cutting versus what is clearing?
For cutting, I imagine if somebody is draining me of energy, if some connection to someone or a thing or a situation has me completely drained, I want to avoid it at all costs. I don't have the energy to deal with it. I imagine like these energetic tendrils, like just straws, like sucking my energy from my aura field.
Mm-hmm.
And cutting, you have to cut that energy connection somehow. You have to make a decision that they don't have access to your energy. So yeah, so just cutting is the whatever way you choose that blocks that connection or destroys that connection or detaches that connection.
Mm-hmm. And clearing is the cleaning up afterwards. So you have the action that does it, and then clearing is clearing away, disposing of the action, the process for the action, what was done with it, and it's a letting go part. The cutting is the action, the letting go part is the clearing.
They obviously do go hand in hand because if you are detaching something, you're not going to let it remain in your field, in your aura.
Exactly. And you've got to look at if you're doing things, and we'll talk about ways to cut and clear in a little bit. But again, when you're clearing, you also want to think about ethical ways of disposal, but also you don't want to have a vacuum. So the idea of nature abhors a vacuum and it will fill it in there. So part of the clearing process is realizing and recognizing what you're going to put back in to fill the void. So you've cut out this toxic relationship and now you've cleared away the remnants of it. You've gotten rid of things, you've destroyed things, you've done all that kind of stuff. What are you putting back in place? Maybe you're putting back in place a routine of self-love. You're putting back in place a routine to do something benefits yourself.
Don't rebound.
Exactly. So you don't want to cut and clear, leave a void, because then you're just going to fill it back in with was essentially the energy that just left, because the energy is just out there and it's ready to swoop back in again if you don't fill it with something new coming in.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of when we're talking about if it's relationships that we're getting away from, because so oftentimes relationships can teach us about ourselves or they can distract us from our own growth. So when you're coming out of a toxic or abusive type situation relationship wise, I love the idea of filling that with, like you said, self-love, but like taking yourself on date. If there's something you want to do, like if you want to go see a movie in a theater and you're needing someone else to do that, like no, like just take yourself on a date, go try out a really fancy restaurant, just because you can do that for yourself.
Absolutely.
It's so empowering to date yourself and not have to fill it with, somebody else distracting you from your own growth or whatever.
Exactly. And be cautious that you're not filling it with something else unhealthy as well. Sometimes it's very easy if you are ending a bad relationship to just fill that space with work, because it takes your mind off and distracts it from it. And that creates another unhealthy pattern that you're going to have to cut and clear down again. So again, really making sure that what goes in it is going to be beneficial to your overall health and wellness.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that magically, spell work wise, as a witch or a magical practitioner, would we address cutting and clearing work in our lives?
The most popular way is in the way that you kind of see this in action is something we mentioned back in our candle magic episode, and that's the using candle magic, the visual representation. I see it all across my TikTok and throughout my YouTube shorts of having 2 pillar candles representing each person with
Cord cutting.
a tie, a twine or something tied to each one. Usually there's herbs, there's other things that invoke the properties of each person, and then lighting both candles and then letting them burn and letting the twine between them burn and cut that cord that way. So that's connecting that energetic cord cutting. It can be very fascinating to watch and also to interpret, as you can see who's holding on, who's not, and that kind of stuff. But that's probably the flashiest way to cord cut.
I like that one, like you said, because you get like that physical representation of the separation, of the idea. But also, I really like mental exercises or meditative exercises, like imagining what the energy connections look like between me and another person or a situation, and how it's sucking from my energy field. And like there's tendrils or straws that are connected to me, and I'll literally take like an imaginary pair of the most awesome scissors I can conjure energetically and start snipping or cutting away and watching like the rope of energy like fray and fall away, and I just like can get as intricate as I can in my imagination about how I'm literally just seeing these energetic connections and I am severing them.
That's a great way to do it.
Those visual exercises can be very powerful if you sit with it. Even with the ADHD brain, set a timer for 5 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes, and just know I can focus on this one thing for this time. And you know that you've put a lot of powerful energy into it that way.
And that, honestly, that's the easiest method that doesn't require any materials, doesn't require anything. You can do this at any time. Energetic snapback of those cords, but yes, you can cut them. I like to cut them and then I will tie them together So if there's multiple strands, I will take the two energies, tie them together, and so that's connected back to that same person. Lots of different ways of that visualization of
You can
separating it
also
out and not leaving loose severed ends dangling.
burn the ends with your,
Mm-hmm.
imaginary lighter so that they don't
Cauterize
fray.
them.
That's the word, cauterize them with your
Cauterize those
imaginary
ends. Mm-hmm.
live fire or whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Sometimes imagining a thing to be true is what allows you to believe that it can be true for you, that you can
Mm-hmm.
actually be free from this situation or this toxicity or this drain on your energy. You're reclaiming. You're
Mm-hmm.
pulling yours back, but you have to make that separation, allow for that detachment. And, the imagination is actually very powerful magic.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those stereotypical tropes of the girlfriend who caught their boyfriend cheating and throwing out their clothes or burning their clothes or something like that. But honestly, the idea of taking an effigy or which is a symbol of someone or something that represents that person and throwing it away, destroying it, burying it, all those
Tossing
kinds
it
of
in a
things,
river.
tossing it in a river. Careful with that because again, you don't want
I
fish and
know,
environmental stuff,
environmental
but yeah,
implications.
implications. But yeah, taking it to fire, taking it to the water, doing something that again gets rid of it, destroys it. It's incredibly cathartic to yourself if you are, say, physically shredding. You've written their name on a piece of paper a gazillion times and put all of your frustration into it and physically shredding it and ripping it up. There's a catharsis in that kind of thing, but that's also cutting and clearing. And then again, taking those paper scraps and burning them, disposing of them, getting them away from you. So yeah, it can be a lot of something as simple as taking an effigy or representation, throwing it, burying it, giving it to water, just getting it away from you.
And by all means, like return their own items to
Mm-hmm.
them. But if they are gifts that they gave you, you are not obligated of keeping something if it doesn't bring back good memories, or
Mm-hmm.
what does Marie Kondo say?
Spark joy.
So yes, getting yourself away from, like, even, say if you're on a journey of sobriety, getting rid of anything connected to how you would partake in something. Really just following through of getting all of that out of your space. Anything that could anything that they would want back, happily return it
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want them coming back to ask you for it.
Right. You don't want the energy, you don't want that constant reminder of something
Mm-mm.
that's
No.
there. It's better to let it go and say it's something you really, really liked. Cool. As part of your clearing, let it go. Go get one for yourself. That's
Yeah.
better, newer, more in a style of what you wanted and that kind of thing, rather than holding on to the old things that are not truly serving you. Every time you look at it, you're going to feel that connection to someone.
Yep. Let
And
it
if it
move
is
on to.
something very large that you can't get rid of, I'm saying, for example, I'll use an example from my divorce and everything else. We had two couches. One was a love seat, one was a couch. They took the couch. I kept the love seat because I didn't have a place to sit. That was not something I could easily replace immediately. There was the
Mhm.
connection, the cutting of that. And then to sever that energetic connection, I Florida watered that bitch. And then some. I smudge cleaned it, all that kind of stuff to break that energetic connection with it so it then became my thing.
Yours.
And already I had already had more of a draw to that piece of furniture anyway, because that was the piece that I sat on and everything else versus them. So it helped having that connection with it. But for the most part, everything else that again for my divorce, anything that they wanted, I let them have because I knew that I could replace that kind of thing and not look at it every time I saw that thing, look at them and think of that person.
Yeah. Honestly, it's okay to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It is death and release
Mm-hmm.
and moving on is a natural cycle of life.
Yes.
Life doesn't exist without, the fact that things are constantly changing and, sometimes we do just need to move on from things. So
Mm-hmm.
just allowing that to be okay for
Yeah.
yourself, it can be kind of a huge thing. Sometimes you have to vent about
Mm-hmm.
it. You have to speak it out. You have to proclaim, make a proclamation that I am done with this. I am dedicated to being done with this. And so use your words, use your language, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could write sometimes when there's no closure with,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're leaving toxic and abusive
Right.
situations, like I did with my family members, there was no closure, and saying the things that you feel like you would love to say to them would not yield any healthy results for you. It'd be pointless and it would be more harmful to you than helpful to the situation. But you still have all these things that you would say to them if you could. Write it in a letter. Write them a letter. You don't have to send the letter. You could burn the letter. You could drown the letter in water and let it become pulp. You don't have to send the letter, but write it all out. Get the words out. Write it down. Say what it is that you need to say to get it out so that you can truly be done. Yell it.
Yeah, yell it to the wind. If you have access to a beach nearby you with waves, draw it, write it in the sand.
I love that idea
All of
because,
that kind of stuff. It's just, yeah,
and
let it
then
out.
let Mother Nature reclaim the all of it. Sometimes crying it out, putting music that in on in the car that I know will make me cry and letting me be by myself so that nobody is affected in any way, shape, or form by my expression of emotions, and I will just cry it out to release it, you know?
And that's the thing, you with closure is an interesting word when you're talking about cutting and clearing magic because it's part of it. But the thing with closure is not something that someone can give to you. It's only something that you can do for yourself. No one owes you closure. No one's going to give you closure. You can only decide if it is closed yourself. And that's where it's doing things like you said, writing that letter, yelling it out, all of those things are things that you can do to find your closure because like you said the other person they have no interest or may have no interest or desire to give you the closure that you think you need. It's a hard lesson. It's real. And again
That has also been
sometimes
my experience.
yeah, and sometimes there is no closure. Maybe the person that you needed to vent on or all of that kind of stuff, they killed themselves. I've had that happen before as well. There is no closure in that aspect. I can't go back to that person and say, come undead for me so I can yell at you and get this all out. That's not what happens. You have to find those ways to find the closure for yourself. And that's a really challenging thing when you're talking about cutting and clearing magic. And the way of doing that is with the cutting and with the clearing comes that aspect of closure that goes with it and acknowledging it.
And it's really, really important when you're doing cutting and clearing that needs to be done with intent, with purpose, with dedication, and for your own and betterment, for your own good. And it's a choice that you make for yourself. It's not a choice anybody can force you into. It's not something somebody can do for you. I have definitely had friends say, I need to do a cord cutting. Will you help me? And I said, I'll help you. I'll tell you where you can get the material or what kind of material to get. I will not light that candle for you. I will not carve that candle for you. I will sit next to you. I can be an accompaniment to it, but I will not do this for you. This is your responsibility. This is the choice that you've made, but own it. Make sure that you know what your intentions are behind it. Make sure that you're coming from a place of, because this is what's best for me. And again, letting that be okay to choose what is best for you, even if it makes somebody else mad, even if it inconveniences someone else, even if it brings up all kinds of feelings for them. They can deal with their own feelings on their own, and you don't have to be responsible for that because you have ultimately, we all need to be able to do what's best for ourselves.
And I think one of the things that I would highlight of what you just said is you have to mean it. Oftentimes we'll do things like, well, oh, I really want to do this, but in your heart, you're waiting for them to come back to you, or you're waiting for them to change, or you're waiting for them to do something that would make it all better. And I think that's just human nature. For those of us who've ever been in relationships, we've had this experience or feeling. We're always waiting for, oh, but if they just did this, it'll be okay. It's that bargaining kind of aspect of grief. And for cutting and clearing to work, you have to mean it. And depending
Yeah.
on the strength of that connection, sometimes you have to do it more than once.
Yeah. Especially if you're done and they're not. That can be particularly challenging. Or if they don't understand and you don't want to justify or explain because they'll never understand, they'll just blame you anyway. Sometimes, like for me personally, it's like, okay, for my own sanity, I will be the villain in your story. I'm okay with that. I can't fix that for you. I'm not going to defend myself. I understand that you feel a certain type of way, but I'll let you make me the villain because I get the freedom, because I get the reclamation, because I get what I need. I don't care what the story is. I think people who, you can't let what other people think of you control your life. And the people who truly love you will come and understand the full story and understand what you're doing for yourself and be supportive of that. And if other people don't support that, then they were just benefiting from your lack of boundaries.
Exactly. And it's one of the things I love that. I can be the villain in your story, that's fine. But what will everyone else think? Well, does what everyone else think matters? If you're in a small town, maybe that is, but what are your options for getting out of that small town? What are your options for doing something else? And then also remembering that people are fickle as bleep. And what happens right now, no one's going to remember a year from now, six
We get
months from
over
now.
it.
People get over it.
Time is a healer.
Exactly. People move on with their lives. What's hot gossip today, people forget about later. It's something else that, like, oh yeah, they brought that up. You will find new people. You will find new people. You'll find people who never heard the story. You can start over again of
Yeah.
whatever it may be. You can always being the villain in someone else's story means they're the villain in yours. It's really one of those things, and that's okay. And learning to accept that, like you said, is so challenging and so hard to do. But there's a freedom in that too, and knowing that what's hot gossip now, no one's going to care about in a month.
And it's really empowering to embrace the idea that some cycles really just are meant to come to an end. We honestly, being on this earth for several decades, I tolerated things in my younger years that I just have no tolerance for these days,
Yes.
Yeah, it can be sad, grief, whatever, to let go, to cut and clear and be done with something. But on the other end of that, it can feel so freeing, so empowering, so like reclamation. I have all this energy back for myself. I can invest it in ways that make me happy instead of that are, making me have all these other toxic feelings.
Right.
So it can be a good thing and we can fully embrace it. So there's a powerful magic in being willing to let things go and moving on.
And accepting that
Imagine,
sometimes things have their time.
yeah. And imagine the possibilities. If you're not all hung up on this thing, what could you be doing with your time? What could you be doing in a year? What
Right.
could you accomplish in the next 5 years if you weren't being drained by this one thing that's not serving you? So,
Right. And we've talked about this being a heavy emotional drain. And sometimes it's not a heavy emotional drain. Sometimes it's a good drain. Sometimes it's something that you're enjoying doing, something that you're feeling and you're loving, but you know that things are coming to an end.
yeah.
We've seen that with just life in general. It's like we see that with TV shows, we see that with other things. There's so many things that sometimes you feel and you're enjoying and you're being a part of, but you know that, hey, I'm enjoying this right now, but I'm ready to move on to see what the next thing is. And that's a gentler way of cutting and clearing, but it's still a cutting and clearing kind of thing
Yeah.
all the same. And that's not a bad thing either.
Yep. Yep. Because it just recognizes that, like with the numerology cycle and being in a 9 year,
Yeah.
that most things are meant to come to an end
Right.
and there will be something new around the corner or the horizon. Now, is that all we should think about? What's coming next? No. No. Focus on this first and then let what comes next come next. I think that's a pretty good cover of cutting and
I
clearing
think so
magic.
too. I think we got a good portion of that.
Yeah, I hope
So,
it helps some people out there because I know
yes,
that it has helped me throughout the years
absolutely.
and it
Absolutely.
has
It's
helped me
definitely.
help others. Well, I just want to say thanks for listening to the Queer Witch Project. And if you like what you hear, make sure you give us some of those thumbs up and subscriptions and follow and 5-star reviews. We love hearing your comments.
Absolutely. And if there's a topic you want to know more about or an episode topic you'd like to suggest, please contact us at thequeerwitchproject@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram with the handle at queerwitchproject. We upload every other week. And remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye. Yay.